Welcome to another episode of the Dads Making a Difference podcast. My name is Cam Hall. Today, we are looking at connectedness, distractiveness, lessons learned by our kids, and our health and how they're all interconnected. I'm going to share this through a reflection of the last 2 weeks where I spent 66 hours on the road with my family and 2 weeks on the Oregon coast. I'm not talking about my vacation as much as I am about the lessons learned as a dad going through a period of time where I'm evaluating what I'm doing. I want to be the best dad. I want you to be the best dad. I want to be the best husband. And I want you to be the best husband. And so I'm sharing 3 lessons I learned over the last 2 weeks that are going to not only help me be a better father and better husband, but I hope are going to challenge you this week to be more present, active, engaged, mindful, and reflective father. This episode, the Dads Making a Difference podcast, starts right now. Hello, my friend. I am back with a solo episode. Good to see you. I am fresh off a 2-week vacation with my family where we went to the beautiful Oregon coast. And now, if you know where I live, that's a little bit ways away, and we did it as a road trip. So we split it into 2 days. We went 7.5 hours to a place called Ritzville, Washington, first, and then all the way to the Oregon coast, just outside of Astoria, actually in Warrenton. Fort Stevens State Park is where we stayed for the first week. And then we made our way south to a place we haven't been before. We went to Newport. We camped in that area, and then we stayed there for a week. And then we just got back after again splitting our drive home in 2 days. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because today's episode is all about some reflections that I've taken away over the last 2 weeks based on the impact that I've realized a couple things have had in my life. First, time with my family and my wife. The impact that that has when it's uninterrupted, when I can be present, when I can be connected, and I'm not being distracted, which leads me into a second point: device use. I am just recently read the book Stolen Focus by Johann Hari. I've mentioned that on the podcast before. And I read it a couple months ago through the lens of teenagers with devices and social media and that. But really coming off that book, I knew that going into this vacation that I couldn't allow my device, my connectedness to interrupt the connectedness with the people I was with Maya and Braylon and my wife, Kim. And so Kim and I decided heading out on our trip that we were not going to pay the roaming international, because I'm from Canada, the international fees for using our cell phones in the States. Yes, we could have. It would have been very easy. It's not very expensive, but it kind of gave us a little bit of a barrier, a little bit of an excuse not to. And what we decided to do is that we would commit to only checking our phones when we were getting groceries. And we were in a grocery store that had Wi-Fi, and we would take 15 minutes and get caught up or do whatever we needed to do at that time. Now, that in itself had its barriers. I'll share that in a little bit. So the first is the connectedness with my family, the importance over the last 2 weeks, what I've learned from that. The second is the idea of device use and how it has interrupted the connectedness I had with my family. And I realized that over the last 2 weeks. And then the third part is how cutting back isn't always adding more. Over the last 3 to 4 weeks, I've really been pushing hard in different areas of my life. And one of the areas, shockingly enough, that I've dropped off in was my fitness, not because I couldn't manage it, because I didn't think it was a priority. It's because I had things going really, really well and life got busy. We were prepping for the vacation. I had episodes I was recording. I got business stuff with Fight the Dad Bod that I was working through. And I just decided, hey, I'm going to go to 3 days a week. And so 4 weeks ago, I went to 3 days a week instead of my typical 4 to 5, changed the workouts up a little bit. And going into my vacation, I actually prepped stuff here in the house. I was like, I'm going to take a yoga mat so I can do my push-ups and stuff. I'm going to take this. And I decided not to take it. And I decided to take 2 weeks off any specialized specific training. So that means like a body weight workout or anything. I was just going to do what we were going to do. And what we did was walk over 100,000 steps on the beach in about 2 weeks, probably way more than that, actually. So lots of walking, lots of activity, but no resistance training style exercise. I'm going to share my takeaways from that. So, first of all, let's dive into the first point of connectedness with my family. Here's what I learned. Here's what I want to encourage you to do is to set aside time. Yeah, a vacation makes it easy because you're just together, especially a vacation when it's just your family, you're in a place you haven't been to before and you're adventuring together and there's new and there's exciting and there's things to see and places to go. That made it easy to be connected because we had questions with each other. We could travel. We were in the vehicle. I pressed stop on my vehicle. You know how you can record the trips? Well, I pressed stop on the record of the trip when we got home, and we had spent driving time in the vehicle in 2 weeks about 66 hours. Well, 66 hours allows itself for a lot of family time. Now, granted, we didn't speak the entire time, of course. I don't think anybody could handle that. We actually listened to the Focus on the Family Adventures in uh, Chronicles of Narnia series, which is a fantastic dramatic series done in an audiobook style you buy from Focus on the Family. We'll put the link down below in the show notes. I highly encourage it. It cost me $80 and it was worth every penny. What a fantastically done series. Anyway, so we listened to that. And we also had questions and conversations and observations. And what do you see? And talks about friends and school and life and all these things. We talked about finance. We talked about investment. My son was asking me about interest rates, and he's 10 years old. And so we were having questions and answer periods, which was fantastic. So 66 hours in the vehicle lends itself to a lot of time to connect. And yes, a vacation is a great time to do this because you're just together. But my question for myself, and this is a lot of self reflection that I'm posing to you as a challenge, and to me as a challenge, I don't have this figured out, is how can I make those times of connectedness the routine in everyday life so it doesn't take a vacation to make it happen? I think I do a pretty good job of connecting with my family, with connecting with my kids, with connecting with my wife. Definitely areas I want to grow in with both of those, especially when Kim and I, our connection, our conversation, our relationship. We tend to prioritize kids right now, 12 and 10-year olds who are in activities. We want to get back to prioritizing us, which is really important. But why can't we in our lives, you and I, put aside the time and make the mental awareness to make connectedness a priority in our home? So, coming back from vacation, that was one thing. I think about some moments. There was one moment where I was walking on the beach, and I was walking on the beach. It was early morning. It was like 5:18 in the morning, low tide. We were up. We were looking for shells, and my son, he was rocking it. He was like finding sand dollars and he was so excited. And we're spread out on the beach. And this is a massive beach. If you've ever been to the Oregon coast, we were on the North Oregon coast. And on those beaches, it's not very rugged. It's just sand for miles and miles. And so we're quite spread apart. It's early morning. There's really nobody else out there. But one of the things I like to do is I just drive down right on the beach at low tide. And then we can go for long periods of time and bring the vehicle along. And then when we're done, we just cruise back. Well, my son was rocking it. And every time he'd pick up a sand dollar, he'd throw his two hands in the air like he was cheering. And I could see him down the beach. And I throw my two hands up. And he was with my wife, and I was with Maya, and the dog was in between. And we're having a lot of fun doing this. Well, my daughter wasn't having as much fun. 2 years ago, when we went, she was the one up early, 10 years old. Excellent for this. But this time, she viewed it a little bit differently. She wasn't as into it, which is okay. It was early in the morning. We also stayed late at night having fires and stuff. But I realized a change in her that wasn't a bad change. I could have been like, Maya, come on, let's go. Let's find these shells. You can do it. This is lots of fun. Or I could just let her have her space. And she's like, Dad, I just kind of want to sit in the truck and read a book for a little bit. I was like, kiddo, I don't want you to miss out. She's like, I don't feel like I'm missing out. I just want some time. I'm tired. I'm like, okay. So I left her in the vehicle. I also found out later through conversation, she was a little bit discouraged because she wasn't finding anything and Bray was finding stuff. And it wasn't until she she strung a few finds together that she started to get more excitement. But that morning, I'm walking in on the beach and I see Bray and Kim up the beach and I see Mai, she's back in the truck. And I'm like, this is no good. So, how do I connect with my daughter in a way that I know she's going to be into without forcing her to do something that she's really not into right now? And I walked back to the truck. I got into the passenger seat. My daughter's 12, by the way. Don't tell anybody this. And I got into the passenger seat and I said, hey, drive down the beach. And she looked at me from the back seat, big eyes, and she shot out of that back seat and into the front seat of the truck in a flash. Huge smile on her face. I helped her adjust the seat, get everything ready. Now, we've done little driving in the country or in a parking lot somewhere. She's 2 years away from getting a learner's permit. So, hey, might as well get her started. And so she on the beach, no one around, in the sand, hard packed sand. She starts driving and she's cruising. And the smile on her face and the videos I took and the little smirks, like she still says that was one of the highlights. And I asked her why it was a highlight. I said, you driven before? She's like, yeah, but it was just you and me. And it was driving on the beach at the ocean, Dad. And I think in that moment, I realized that things don't have to be elaborate. We don't have to do flashy things. I took my family 17 hours to the Oregon coast and got up early in the morning to look for shells to find out that my daughter didn't want to look for shells. And I could have been upset about it. I could have been discouraged by it, but instead I just kind of embraced where she was at. And what I found through that experience was as dads, there's a lot of times where we want to create opportunities. We want to create the perfect scenario. I think on this holiday, there was a couple times I wanted to create the perfect scenario around the fire, on the beach, whatever it was. And we need to realize as men that creating the perfect scenario is putting us first. It's putting us first. We might think we're putting our wife or our kids first. We might be thinking that we are focusing on them, but really we're putting our intentions first. And it's a real challenge for me at times to sit back and say, is this about me or is this about them? And I think in that moment, I realized that making it about Maya and giving her an experience on the beach was great, but then allowing her to do something that she thought was a ton of fun and was pretty harmless. Um, she still says that's one of the best times of the holiday, which is really cool. Which, of course, then I have a 10-year-old son who sees this happening and he has to have his shot. So he doesn't reach the pedals in my truck quite yet. So he sat on my lap, he got the steer, and we drove down the beach. Both highlights for those kids. Think about one more moment. And then I want to share this, not because I want to ramble on, because guys, you have moments over the last several months. You have experienced these moments. And I want to challenge you to identify them, to call them out, to name them, to reflect on them. Don't let your life go by day without reflecting on it. That's another takeaway, a little side note from this vacation. So, a moment with my son. We are driving home, 2-day drive. The first leg takes us through Portland, Oregon. Now, we hit Portland at 2:30 p.m. on a Friday. Well, we got to take the I-5 to the I-84 right past downtown on a Friday afternoon. And what would typically, in any other time of the day, be a 10 to 15-minute bypass of the city turned into a 90-minute waiting time. 90 minutes of bumper to bumper. And of course, we are smack dab in lanes and lanes of traffic, pulling a trailer. And my son's like, Dad, I really got to pee. And we've all been there. We've had the kid in the backseat or ourselves. We've really had to go. And I said, buddy, like we are on the interstate. We're back bumper to bumper. Like there is nowhere to go, man. Like you're going to have to hold this. Do your best. I will find an exit. So it takes us about 25 minutes to go a mile, maybe a mile, not even. And he's like, Dad, I really got to go. I'm like, you're doing great, man. I will find the next exit and we will do this. So I can see an exit. So I work my way over the lanes of traffic. We get off and we're in this neighborhood. Uh, and if you're from Portland listening to this, I don't tell me where I was if this was a bad thing. Anyway, I went into this neighborhood, so like Hollywood something. And so I see a park on the navigation map. And I'm like, there's got to be a tree there for my son. Like, spoke like a dad, right? Find a tree. And so we drive through this neighborhood, beautiful neighborhood. We get to this massive public park. And sure enough, there's a public washroom, thank goodness. Probably not the cleanest washroom, but that's okay. It's a washroom facility where, 5 or 6 blocks, 7 blocks off the interstate. This is perfect. Uh, the only drawback is that I have a pickup truck pulling a 24-foot trailer, and we are navigating a narrow neighborhood street that I would say generously allowed me a foot and a half to 2 feet on either side of the trailer between parked cars, and in a very affluent neighborhood by the looks of the houses where we were at. And so here's this Canadian guy pulling his trailer down this residential street by this public park. My son jumps out. Sure enough, everybody else has to go. So they all jump out. He gets back in, and I go up. I said, man, I got to turn around somewhere and go back and pick up mom and Maya. And I get up and I realize by looking at the map, there's nowhere that's going to be a natural turnaround. So what do I proceed to do? Well, I backed up a trailer quite a bit. I pull forward. I see a T intersection. I pull through the intersection. I back up into the T. Takes me about 3 or 4 like turns with the trailer to swing the whole thing around and get back the other way. And for me, I was like, okay, just don't hit anything, but I can do this, no problem. My son was enthralled by this. He's like, Dad, how are you going to turn this around in this much space? I said, well, it's easy, but I'll just take my time. I'm going to let the traffic go through. There's nobody coming. I'm going to go forward. I'm going to back up into that road to our right, and then I'm going to swing back to the left, and we're going to come back the way we came. And so he just watched with amazement. I thought it was hilarious because I'm just turning this around. Funnily enough, in front of a massive house where people are on their deck, kind of looking at me like, what is this strange Canadian doing? And I turn around and pull it off, like 5 little adjustments, and we're going back the other way down this narrow road. And all Braylon says from the backseat is like, Dad, you nailed that. And I turned around and I looked at him and I was like, thanks, buddy. And it was kind of funny because it also made me realize that the smallest moments that we take for granted, our kids are watching us. And I'm still reflecting on what did he learn through that? I could have been frustrated. I could have been frantic. The whole thing could have been, no, you can't go to the washroom. Like, you don't have there's nowhere to go. You should have gone the last time. All of this. None of that came in the conversation. It's like, hey, man, we're going to figure this out. We'll always figure it out. There's always a way to figure it out. Control what you can control, ignore what you can't. Let's go. And while I could control that little bit of situation, I could turn a trailer around. Who know, all those years of working construction came helpful. But the way he looked at me and said, you nailed that. It was like he was amazed. He didn't think it was going to happen. His dad pulled it off. My friend, if you're listening to this, there are things that you do in your life every single day that you are taking for granted right now, that your son or daughter is looking at you and they're like, wow, how did he pull that off? And I want you to realize that there is nothing too small, nothing too insignificant that you do in front of your kids that's not going to impact them. And this is not a, hey, be careful, they're watching you. This is like a be gracious, be thankful they're watching you, because you are setting the example for them. And I was setting an example of patience, of generosity and kindness in that moment. I could have been really frustrated. And through it, we've created an adventure. I saw the positive spin. I'm like, hey, we are 6 blocks off the interstate. I see this side neighborhood road. We're going to follow this for the next half hour and we're going to bypass the interstate. And we did that. And we saw a beautiful neighborhood and got back to the interstate and off we went. And, 2 extra hours in Portland on a 7-hour drive is not ideal in the back of my head. But in that moment, I just realized there's so many things that I'm doing that my kids are watching me do that I have a choice of how I'm going to react. And how I react is going to be how they react. It's going to be how they react in the future with their boyfriend or girlfriend, how they're going to react in the future with their spouse, how they're going to react in the future with their kids. And I want to make sure that I'm living by example. And I didn't do that consciously. I didn't go into that thinking, oh, here's a moment that I can teach and be an example for my son. Look at me. No, I was looking for my place for my kid to pee, for the rest of us to go, for me to back around the trailer and get the heck out of there. But something else came from it. And I want to encourage you that this week, as you move forward, that in the little things, something else is coming from it. no matter how insignificant. Maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a negative thing, but it's going to have something come from it. If your kids are with you, you are an example. Be mindful of that. And that's a takeaway from this last 2 weeks that I really am bringing back home with me, is that on the beach, in the trailer, on the road, 66 hours of the vehicle, at the one restaurant I won't name where we ate and the food was disgusting, but we were gracious. We finished as much as we could. And my son was like, "Oh, that was gross. What'd you say?" I said, "No." I said, "I thanked the man for his service because he did amazing service." And then we left. And that's what it was. But, we have choices to react in certain ways. So that's my encouragement to you. That's something I'm working on. The second I want to get into, and not to be too disconnected, but no pun intended, was the piece of technology and what I felt in the last 2 weeks versus what I felt in the last 2 days since being home. In the last 2 weeks, knowing that I wasn't bound to jump on social media, and that anytime I jumped on Instagram to share a story, I shared all of our family adventures on the at Fight the Dad Bod account, and pasted and copied some of them at the Dad's Making Difference account. I love doing that because it literally took me 5 minutes. I create these short little snippets, I take pictures anyway, because we're taking so many pictures, we're tourists. And then in Safeway or Fred Meyer or whatever it was, I'd be walking and it would take me 5 minutes to go click, 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 post, done. And that was it. I didn't care about people who, like, I care if you're watching it. I appreciate you're there, but I didn't look for responses, likes, loves, hearts, whatever it is. I didn't care. I posted it because I knew that in about 7 minutes, I was leaving that store and I wouldn't have any cellular data, Wi Fi connection to anything unless I needed it in an emergency. And it was so, oh, I don't know if you can hear it, but the relief, my shoulders drop. And it was so nice to be disconnected that way, because as soon as I was disconnected, I was able to be more connected with my family. Now, here's what I noticed also in these stores: the kids realize that, oh, mom and dad aren't paying attention because now they're on their phones and they can go on Instagram, they can text. I sent texts to my dad. I didn't answer any other text messages. I didn't answer any phone calls. I didn't make any calls in 2 weeks. It was fantastic. Just texting my dad, giving him updates. And I posted to the stories, I think 4 or 5 times, where we were just listing off what we were doing. And in that time, I realized, how much time are we wasting away from our kids where we are not being present? And that's come up over and over again on this podcast. And so I challenge you right now not to do what I'm doing, because in the last 2 weeks, it's been fantastic. And then I got home on Saturday night, and today is Monday. Got home on Saturday night. And even in the last 24 to 40 hours, I've been on my phone more than I have been in the last 2 weeks. And I feel blah. Like, I really do. I feel like I am just consuming crap. Like, I I don't know what it is. It messes with your brain, and I have to be way more conscious about how I'm utilizing this as a tool, not being utilized by the tool. And so my challenge to you right now is take a detox from your phone, take a detox from social media. If you follow me and you're following my stuff, I'll get it. Just send me a message. Hey, I'm disappearing for a bit. If you're in my community, whether you're in the Fight the Dad Bod community or the Dad's Making Difference community, and you're utilizing one of those social media platforms to stay connected, hey, give us a heads up and then disappear for a bit. I encourage you to do this because I think it's healthy for all of us to get recentered and realize what's actually happening in front of us is real life. And what we're seeing being marketed to us day by day by day on social media is not real life. It is a device that is distracting us from real life. And it's a great tool. It's helped me connect with thousands of men all over the world, like literally thousands from 2015 to now. Thousands of men all over the world I've been connected to. I've had amazing conversations. We've got guys, incredible results through Fight the Dad Bod. The FC is something I'm part of. We use social media for that. And of course, Dad's Making a Difference. We post this out on our social media platforms and hope to get more traction and build this podcast. Selfishly, yes, I want this to be a big podcast. I want people to hear our messages from our guests and from me, because I think it's going to change their life. So, yes, it has a place as a tool, but don't be just a consumer. Like, utilize it, be effective with it, limit it. I now have a timer on both Facebook and Instagram. I don't have TikTok or Snapchat or anything like that, but Facebook and Instagram have a timer. It gives me my heads up, and then that's it. It's like a 15-minute for the day, and then I'm done, which is fine. It's fantastic. So I encourage you to do that, because over the last 2 weeks, it was great being off social. And now coming back, I already feel like this cloud over me of like, I have to check it all the time. And so I need to really work on that. And yeah, if you're working on this right now, let me know. Send me a message, send me an email. Cam at fightthedadbod.ca is a good place if you're part of the Fight the Dad Bod community, or just cam at dmdpodcast.com if you're part of this community in the Dads Making Difference community. I'd love to hear about you and your experiences with device use and how you're finding and navigating it. We've talked about it lots on this podcast. And then I think about the third piece I want to reflect on, and that was how cutting back doesn't always add to more. And this is what I mean. I made the decision to not do any resistance training or physical activity that was like targeted cam working out, something separate from my family. We did lots of hiking, lots of walking, lots of things like that. That was great. I definitely got my steps in. But here's the thing, I'm feeling it. Maybe it's because I'm 43 years old, but I'm also feeling it. I don't feel the energy. I don't feel the strength. I'm not happy with how my body looks. I feel soft. And you can say whatever you want. This is me and my perception of myself. And I think so many of us in our perceptions of ourselves, we're like not happy with where we're at. We're not happy with how we feel. We realize that our body has the aches and pains that we don't normally have when we're active, when we're going all the time. And it seems contradictory, but the more active I am, the less I hurt. The more I work out, the stronger I feel, the less weak I feel at home. The more I work out, the more activities I'm doing, it takes more energy, but really it is energy giving, and it gives me more energy at home to say yes to all the things that I want to do. Yes to biking with the kids. Yes to hanging out with Kim or going for a dog walk at the end of the day with Kim. Yes to all the things that I want to do in my personal life that aren't working out. Working out is the tool, it's an outlet for me, but it also helps me feel great. And it's going to help you feel great. And I want to encourage you that if you are not in some type of routine right now, if you are not eating well, if you are not sleeping well, if you have low energy, if you are feeling a lot of stress and you are not working out or being active, you need to connect with me, cam at fightthedadbod.ca, or send me a message at fightthedadbod on Instagram. In my 15 minutes a day, I'll check it and I'll get back to you. But if you are not doing those things, you have to create and implement a physical and mental health plan. Over the last 2 weeks, my mental health felt pretty good because I was with my family and I was at the ocean, which is one of my favorite places. And we were camping in the forest, which is another one of my favorite things to do. So my mental health was really good, but my body hurts. I don't feel like I am where I want to be. And I don't look how I want to look. And that might seem shallow, but hey, we want to look good. You look good, you feel good. You look good, you feel more attractive to yourself because you feel more attractive to your spouse. And when you feel more attractive to your spouse, your physical intimacy goes up, your emotional intimacy goes up. It's just this whole circle. And so that's a big reflection for me, a guy who always likes to be fit and in control of my health. I felt a little bit out of control of my health when I got back. And so I'm taking control. Those of you guys who know me in the Fight the Dad Bod program, I'm diving into the first 7 days. You can get a free copy of 7 days to lose 7 pounds. I give you 7 steps to lose 7 pounds in 7 days. I'll give that to you for free if you want that. Again, just go to fightthedadbod.com and you can download it right there. So I'm doing that 7 days starting today. And I want to encourage you to do the same. Take control of your health. If you can take control of your nutrition, your sleep, your water intake, and your exercise, you're going to feel so much better. So those, my friend, are 3 of the reflections that I have from the last 2 weeks of my family vacation. I hope you got value out of this. I want to share a little bit of what's coming up. I am very grateful for every one of the past guests on the Dads Making Difference podcast. I selfishly enjoy every single conversation. I learn something from every single conversation. And if you're listening and you're not learning something, then you're not listening close enough, because the people who've been coming on are amazing. And I have more lined up. But I do feel a calling right now to do more episodes of just me here talking with you there and sharing some insight from what I'm experiencing in my life, but also to encourage you, to coach you, to guide you, and to lead you into becoming the best dad that you can be, into a dad truly making a difference. If you have a topic, a question, something that you want me to address on one of my solo episodes, please send me an email, cam@dmdpodcast.com. I would love to hear it. And I will do it. I will address it on an upcoming show. So keep eye out, an ear out. We'll still drop every Wednesday. It'll be me solo or an interview, and we may put in some Freestyle Friday episodes coming up in the fall. I appreciate you. You've got this. I believe in you. You can be an incredible dad. You can be an incredible husband. It's in you. You just need community to bring it out of you. And that's what Dad's Making Difference is all about. Go, my friend, make a difference this week, and we'll see you on the next episode of the DMD podcast.